Good evening, Tricia Crane, Chair of Northeast Neighbors. We're concerned about the disconnect between what the City Council and staff regard as community priorities and what members of Northeast Neighbors have stated they wanted to see prioritized in the near term. The coincidence of Sunday's City Council priority setting retreat, followed by this agenda item, is troubling because it seems to confirm the widespread feelings in the community that were noted in the Wellbeing Project of 2014, that many Santa Monica residents believe they are unable to influence decisions affecting our city. Council chose priorities on Sunday that were not identified as priorities by a significant number of residents. Northeast Neighbors conducted a membership survey in March of 2015. More residents responded to our survey than attended or provided public input and comment at Sunday's council retreat. The priorities identified by our members were entirely different from those proposed and chosen for action by council. These differences are more than just semantics. Not one of our members identified the public funding of affordable housing as a top priority. Instead, hundreds identified as their top 3 priorities the need for our city to address overdevelopment, traffic, and parking problems. This is not to say that we do not support affordable housing. People shouldn't be afraid to speak their minds in this city. The issue at hand is the action of this council to advance public funding for affordable housing as a priority without a genuine public process where people are free to ask important questions and receive answers, such as, what is the goal of this effort? Specifically, how many affordable units does the city seek to create and build, and over what time frame? How will we identify the success of this program? Clear benchmarks and quantifiable goals are necessary to any successful program. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. That is all the request to speak. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a question for you, Ms. Crane, from Mayor Pro Tem Vasquez. Tricia Crane, could you come back up? Mayor Pro Tem Vasquez.
Yes. I noticed in your email that you shot out to us, you listed the priorities by your, this is from your neighborhood group, right?
Yes.
And how many people, you did some kind of a survey with that? Well,
every year the city sends out a mailer throughout their neighborhood, and they are...
So what was the sampling?
The numbers I have of responses were 400.
Were 400?
Mm-hmm. And half of those stated overdevelopment was their largest concern.
Nobody talked about affordable housing.
It was an open-ended question, and the question was, as you saw in my email, the question was, what should City Council prioritize in the coming year? It was an open-ended question. There was no list. It was what people generated spontaneously. And we are concerned about these issues. We're not concerned about helping people who need affordable housing. That is not true. And many people who would be here tonight have been made to feel afraid to come here because people treat them like they're bad people for questioning our government. And that is not healthy.
No, but so you're saying your group is in support of affordable housing then?
I'm saying that we have many questions about the way this council is moving ahead with this without public support, in our view. I'm telling you that our neighborhood does not set this as a priority. We have water problems, we have overdevelopment crushing us, we're choking on traffic, and we don't understand how this is the priority for our council.
But you're basing it on 400 people.
Well, that's a lot more than came to your event on Sunday.
But let me finish. You're basing it on 400 people, yet we've heard from representatives from several groups besides your group, and including your group, that say affordable housing is a priority.
I am not saying that affordable housing is not a priority. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying to our members have described what they consider to be the top priorities. And affordable housing generation and funding was not one of them.
And it's interesting, in the 4 priorities that you listed, airport wasn't listed on there. Yet we just passed a measure just in the last election where 60% of the voters are in support of our action on the airport.
Well, I do think that Northeast Neighbors is far from the airport, and it's different from Friends of
But that's what I'm
Central
saying. You're talking about a small sampling, and to make a generalization based on that small sampling, I have a problem with that.
Well, I understand, sir. We are recognized by the city as a neighborhood organization.
I'm not disputing that.
And I, if you've noticed, that I am one of very few who feel free to come here and represent those voices. You should be welcoming me and not making me feel bad about it.
I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just trying to make it clear that I think your folks, especially your folks in your neighborhood, are welcome to come in here, and I encourage the dialogue.
Well,
let me finish.
Yeah.
Because I encourage this. I actually like to have conversation and dialogue with people that don't agree with me.
Well,
can I finish?
Yes.
Because in that dialogue, I think it actually crystallizes our discussion and my position.
I'd like to offer you an example of what happened when I was trying to get information from a former chair of the Housing Commission. All I wanted to know was some facts, some of the questions that I've presented tonight if we'd had more time. And this individual, who is a banker, whose bank specialty is to loan to affordable housing projects, had the nerve to say to me, well, you just don't want poor people living in your neighborhood. This is what people say to us. When you ask genuine questions about these policy decisions, this is our city. It isn't your city. You represent us. And when we ask reasonable questions about these priorities, we're made to feel badly about ourselves, just as you did that tonight by diminishing Northeast Neighbors because we're a
I'm not
small number.
diminishing, and actually, if that's coming across, I apologize from that, but actually, I welcome this conversation, and I think the council members that are here are very supportive of your neighborhood, but I just had a problem when I got that email, and it just made that innuendo that, affordable housing wasn't one of your top priorities.
It isn't. Affordable housing, the funding of affordable housing is not a priority for my neighborhood. And I'm here to tell you that. And if it's not a welcome message, I apologize. But I'm not saying that we don't support the poor and we don't believe in helping those who need affordable housing. I'm saying that the question we have has to do with the way this council is proceeding with this funding project to build affordable housing when people are tired of overdevelopment. And it means building. However nicely you couch this, it's going to mean a lot more building in our city.
Are you aware of the fact that over the last 40 years, our population hasn't grown?
And I think it's a reasonable thing to ask ourselves, how big do we want our city to be?
That's a good question to ask.
Absolutely.
But to say that overdevelopment has increased the population is a misnomer.
I didn't say that. I said people are crushed by the specter of more buildings coming into this city, and people in our neighborhood want to understand, how can you fund affordable housing projects without having building? I don't know how that can be done. We would have a lot of questions about it. Where will it go? How big will it be? Why does it have exemptions in the zoning code only for 100% affordable housing? People have a lot of questions about the plans.
Well, I hope they come, because we need to have that dialogue.
Well, people are not coming here, and it's a rigged event where only the supporters are here.
This is not a rigged event. It's an open meeting.
Well, that's just my personal view.
All right.
And your opinion is a valid one for you. I want to ratchet this down from the confrontation and try to... Ms. Crane, I had questions for you, please. Tricia Crane, I had more questions for you. I want to try and seek solutions here and connect what seem to be competing ideas. You said that you do support affordable housing, but not the public funding.
I was a renter in this town,
please?
and I know you are. I absolutely think...
Ms. Crane, could I finish the question?
Yes.
Before you answer it, please? You said you support affordable housing. Your neighborhood group supports affordable housing, which is good. But you said you don't support the public funding of affordable housing. So my question is, how would we create affordable housing if it needs to be subsidized if we don't fund it?
I think that the way that this has progressed, the process that the council has followed with this, has made it very clear that this is an agenda that was moving from behind the scenes from long ago, and that the public input is not...
What is your idea? I'm asking for your input.
What is my idea?
I'm asking for your input.
And I have these questions for you, such as what are the plans in terms of how many units do we need?
But no, what I'm asking is, how do you suggest we achieve the creation of affordable housing without funding it?
I think it's very, very difficult. I think the market forces are terrifying. I know the cost of living is frightening everyone. I have adult children. I don't know where they're going to live. So I don't think there are simple solutions at all. And I don't denigrate the efforts to create housing that is affordable. I think it's a good thing. But there's a way in which this is moving forward with a sort of agenda that the public doesn't engage in. Now, maybe we are just a freak neighborhood. I actually don't believe that's true. I happen to know this city very well. And people feel disenfranchised.
Ms. Crane, nothing is moving forward right now. We're standing still, waiting to hear how we can fulfill the need, which I think has been demonstrated for affordable housing, if we don't spend time thinking about how to fund it, which is why we're here tonight. So I'm trying to work with you to find out what it is you would have us do. You're saying it's rigged and there's an agenda, but what would your preference be?
Well, I mean, I've witnessed the destruction of some of the most affordable housing in this city under this council's watch. Village Trailer Park is going to be gone soon. You know, you don't have a particularly wonderful record of protecting the existing housing stock. I'm concerned about the pressures on the neighborhoods in terms of how many of the property owners are going to be going out of the rental business because it's become so difficult for them. And yet we make these people who are the housing providers feel like they're demons and they're bad people. And they never come here and talk to you about the real dynamic that they experience because they're always the bad guys. But, you know, this is a community that we cherish, and we should protect it before we start tinkering with generating more buildings and filling people from other parts of Southern California. And a lot of people are worried about what's going to happen to our city, and I'm one of them.
You know, over the 40 years I've lived here, the population of Santa Monica has grown by less than 0.5% per year, and that is below the birth rate. So we're not even housing our own kids. So when we say we need to create affordable housing, the need is probably near infinite, but there certainly is a need. And you said you support affordable housing. So what I'm asking for here, what we're asking for, the reason we're here talking to the community is to figure out a way to create and provide that affordable housing. And going back and saying, well, this vote happened 2 years ago and this happened with landlords 36 years ago, that doesn't create new affordable housing. So I'm asking you to help us figure out a way to create new affordable housing.
It's a noble cause, but there are other causes and there are other concerns in this city. And all I wanted to tell you tonight was bring this to you.
And they get their time at the council too. But tonight what we're talking about is affordable housing.
Clearly.
Okay, well, thank you. So you have another question?
Yes.
I have another question for you from Councilmember Himmelrich.
And my question is actually what I understand that it's frustrating. I've been on that side, and I understand it's frustrating because we sit here, we don't answer your questions, you don't get to ask us questions, right? And so now we are going to be asking questions of staff, and I'm going to ask you what I asked Mr. Bach, which is, do you have questions that you want us to ask, that you think we should be asking during this study session? Because none of us have all of the answers, but we do want to know more. So, the numbers questions are, I find, pretty, and this is an area that I've spent a lot of time muddling around in, and so there are a lot of numbers in the staff report, and in various, in the housing element, et cetera, but are there questions that you would like to see us ask of staff?
Well, I've attended a couple of Housing Commission meetings thinking I would get information there, but there are many questions. I mean, I think if you're going to mount a project and fund affordable housing, you need to have a sense of what the goal is. What is the goal? And how many affordable units does the city want to generate? You know, you can't measure the success of a program until you know.
Okay,
at least
so how many units do we want to build over the next 5 years, 10, whatever? Okay.
Well, I'm not engineering it for you. I'm simply saying that.
I'm asking you what your questions are.
I know that's your favorite thing to do, but I don't have those answers for you, and I appreciate you asking those questions.
I'm not asking you for answers. I'm asking you for questions.
Well, I'll send you an email, but
Okay,
I can't
good.
think I'm not a planner. But I do think that
I'm only offering to ask the questions that you might have, and if you want to send me an email, then I will later ask them.
It needs to be okay for people to not support what you all want. It needs to be for the community to say, you know what, you represent us, and we don't necessarily want to fund this as a top priority when we don't have water. So, you know, it needs to be okay for people to come here.
You can say that, but if you're in anybody who wants to come here and say that can say it. In fact, we encourage people to come and say what they want. If more people don't agree with you than do agree with you, then we might make a different choice than what your choice might be.
Well,
I'm sorry, it's just, you know, and I understand
it gets a little tiresome rounding up dozens of people to come here and try to balance out the staff and the institutions that benefit from this industry. You know, and that really is something that people feel. What's the point? But I will certainly continue to do my best to represent people, and it may not seem like a lot, but it is. They are constituents of yours.